Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Aabria, Paul, Travis, you did it. Congratulations.
Yeah, Travis,
you
were not trapped as such, but you were very instrumental in doing the freeing.
Yes, you did very well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farmer.
I really enjoyed this room. I play tested this not long ago, a couple of days ago, and it's a great room. And you guys did really well. I think you got everything. I was so worried
that we wouldn't get out of the mausoleum.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was that you were going to get out of the mausoleum and then have an entire new puzzle that you had to do. Because I didn't think you were doing the tombstone puzzle at all. I was like, oh, they've still got this whole tombstone puzzle to do. But you had solved it already, which was lovely.
You had made your own props.
And maybe an explanation of why Travis was doing so much heavy lifting on getting you out of the mausoleum at the end there.
It's fine. Well,
here was my approach. I was like, I can't solve this puzzle. I'm checking out. But I can solve the next bunch.
To be honest, having a jigsaw in escape rooms is a really good part of that when someone isn't getting those aha clicks, but they still have something to do that is essential and still feels like a really good accomplishment. It just does, you just already know what you have to do from the beginning, so you don't have to fumble your way to that. It's a good thing to have.
It embodies, so like when I do escape rooms with people and I'm like, I'm not really this bossy, I always ask, like, do you want me to give you some, like, if it's their first time, do you want some pointers before we start? And the thing I always say is, like, there is no reason for everybody in the escape room to be working on the same puzzle, right? Like, if you're working on a puzzle and you hit a point where you can't come up with anything else, say, here's where I'm at with this. Can somebody take over for it? And I'm going to rotate to something else.
Absolutely.
But when you start to get that, you get in that too many cooks situation where it's just like, okay, we got 5 voices all shouting different things while one pair of hands is trying to put the thing together. It doesn't work that way. And so it actually worked great for me because I was like, yeah, I'll work on this. And then when we came out, I was like, I don't know. And you guys were like, yeah, we did it. And I'm like, perfect.
Brilliant.
Because I have not taken the time to do it.
Yeah, the in-universe magic of how certain tasks managed to get done is, quite extraordinary. That from inside the mausoleum, you were able to solve that.
True.
Again, explained in the fiction that we were raised knowing it. So we just walked out and went, the things that we've read a bunch.
As Lord and Lady, we would as a couple go and stare at those gravestones daily.
And that was called foreplay.
Society.
Yeah. And that's why our son became a farmer.
I also want to say thank you, Bill and Danny, for not holding us to that fiction. To be like, but you can't tell them that, so you don't know. That would have made it not fun.
It's
what if it was just 2 hours of us not talking to Travis?
Yeah, well, there's
a nightmare.
There's a moment, like, when you're designing this room and when we were play testing it, we were thinking, like, is it going to be fun or terrible to, like, silo off the information? Like, here's something you can see, but here's something the others can see, and then, like, try and get you to mime it to each other through glass.
We have done this. We have had to do it before, and it is little bits of fun in small bursts. But you know what? You guys are all super key role players. I figure you get the image. You get what it's going for.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I've done a couple of escape rooms now where there is some kind of, like, sectioning off of stuff that you have to, but it's either that there is a, like, window in the middle to show things and talk through, or it is all like a repetition thing. I did one where you the only way that, like, these names were read off is if the curtain was closed and you were sitting in the dark. So, like, someone had to sit in the dark and hear these names whispered around them as they called out the names to the people outside who were placing the things together.
Yeah.
And, like, that kind of sectioning off of information of, like, you're repeating it because the others can't hear it, or you're describing it because other people can't see it, or you're holding it up. But there has to be some kind of easy way to do it.
Like, one of the very first rooms we ever did, not made, but, like, played, had that with, like, a maze where you've got a magnet taking a key through a maze, but you have to be on the other side of the wall, so one person on the other side can tell you, go up. Oh, you went too far up, now the key's dropped. Okay, go back there. And, like, that sort of stuff is fun. But again,
people roll their eyes at the magnet maze. I like them.
The magnet maze is good. But in audio, it becomes a lot tougher as well. Especially for people to follow. So we toyed with the idea, but we decided against.
Instead, we just figured, let you do the stuff, and we'll just keep lampshading it.
Yeah.
It's very funny once you get to the end of the puzzle to hear like, oh, here's the 97 ways in which we alluded to the solution to get out without at all getting there.
Yeah.
How delightful.
My favorite, what I love is looking back on it. When you first introduced the pedestal, you were like, it's a really simple pedestal. And I know now from like a GM point of view, seeing it back, you said like, how do I make it clear that there's nothing special about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll literally say it's a simple pedestal. And then us three idiots for the rest of like hour and a half was like, what about the pedestal? Anything with the pedestal? Tell me more about this pedestal. Can I lift up the pedestal?
As a guy who runs a lot of role-play games, my theory is that pedestal is a really interesting word.
Oh.
I agree with you, and I use plinth as a substitution all the time.
Nice.
What?
Oh, not for nothing. Just complete aside. A friend of mine ran a D&D game once in which the players went from level 1 to about level 12 to defeat a evil necromancer whose name was Balar, and he had made an altar out of bodies, which was referred to as the flesh plinth of Balar.
I get it.
He built the entire campaign
Can you explain
around
it?
that pun.
I love that. 12 levels.
It's very fun to like sit and play an audio escape room and realize how much my skill set in the like escape rooms I've been in has been about like lining up visual cues. And I was like, oh no. I definitely realized I'm the person in the room that like sees a setup that's like, okay, what if I like sit at this perspective, like and physically interact and look at how things line up, and like that doesn't work in this.
This was an unlucky one that there was only like one visual sort of puzzle like that for you. Sometimes we have a couple more like that.
No, it's all good. This is great.
This is audio, so yeah, it's largely audio. But yeah, there was only one that had the real visual thing going on with the fenceness. So yeah, it was unlucky, but yeah, it's interesting to hear how it feels as a variation on a, like compared to a physical escape room.
I cannot tell you how many times I redrew the graveyard every time new information was in. But the last time I did it, I left extra space, and for a time I was looking at going, okay, so the mausoleum and the flower beds are like, that's a pentagram. That's a pentagram. And then I was like, wait, no, you've just drawn it so they're all equally spaced. That's not fact.
Yeah.
See, what's fun, I've just realized doing this, how much of I think my escape room prowess comes from like growing up doing the LucasArts of like
without
Monkey
a doubt.
Island and Quest for Glory and all those games, because it's like, oh, okay, use plinth on door.
Exactly.
No? Okay, great. Use fish on chicken, and it's like that kind of stuff of like eventually you start to use up the stuff in your inventory and you're like, well, it's only 3 things, so it's got to be 2 of those, right? And it's just like
100%.
Yeah,
there's a reason that escape rooms started out as tiny flash games.
Yeah,
there
was a shared kind of logic and language to the way the puzzles come together.
Now, Travis, was there any puzzle in here that you feel particularly proud of yourself for getting?
I was really proud of the fence one. I'm not proud of how long it took me to figure out the door was hot and cold. Don't worry about that. That's not important.
You're good.
There was a moment where I was so sure, because you said, like you were like, well, they've got bobby pins and, of course, the window that we can't get through. And then we've got the whiskey that we turned into a hot firebomb, and we've got cold water.
As soon as you heard there was cold water, you went,
use that
yes,
later.
We've got those 2 things, and we can shelve that for a minute.
And I was so sure
I really
thought
thought it had. I was thinking like you pour them on the statues.
Fair enough.
Or something like.
But instead, the statues are just like
so many things. They were metaphors.
They're the hints.
Yeah.
And it's
metaphors
kind of like
for science.
Hard to reclassify. The other one that'll be funny to listen, that's interesting to listen back to, is when you had only the coffin to look at, that you hadn't, like, we knew there was some lost information there. If you listen back to the descriptions we started giving of everything, it was like, Travis, yeah, you can see through the window. You see the Lord and the Lady in there, and behind them, their coffins are in the mausoleum, and da-da-da. Oh, and then you'll look around the mausoleum, and there's nothing other than, like, you know, your coffins and some other stuff, and, you know. Oh, and then just throwing the word coffin in more and more. It's interesting to listen back to these moments of,
so when you know, you know.
You spent so much time drawing coffins to then ignore the coffin. house.
Well, you were saying the coffin lid thing like this? What I'd drawn was like the lid attached to the coffin, open like a vampire's house,
Yes,
and not like thrown off. So I was like, when he said, "Look, you looked at the lids," I'm like, "Yeah, we looked at that object."
Hey, Paul,
Hey,
I
Paul.
just also want to
That was the
say
toughest
how charming that was to refer to it as a vampire's house.
Vampire house. Thank you. I was
Like if
also
you
about to
walked
say
into a
that.
room and you're like, and is that your house? You'd be like, that's my bed. What are you talking? This is my house. You're in my house. I was very charmed by that.
The vampire house.
It's late where Paul is. Speaking of, I've got to run away, Danny and Paul.
That's why I
Danny
wanted
and
to get
Bill.
that last question out.
Thank you.
Yes, well, look, it was lovely to have you.
Thank you.
Once you go, we can all talk about all the secret things we really think about you.
That's fair. I know that
but-
people do that when I leave the room. That's fine.
But it was lovely.
Oh,
It was
no,
lovely
that
to
was
have you.
sad,
Thank you
actually.
for helping organize all of this with some
thank
extra
you so
guests as well. It was lovely.
thank you,
Before you
Travis.
leave, do you want to? If there's people want to listen to more stuff you're doing, is there anything you want to direct people's ears to?
Yeah, people can just go to McElroy.family, McElroy.family, and you will find all the stuff we make there.
Wonderful, and there'll be a link to that in the show notes below. Thank you, Travis.
Great. Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much,
Bye
Travis.
bye.
All right. So, Danny, you had some other questions.
Yeah, well, moving on from that, Aabria and Paul, anything that you were particularly proud of yourselves for? Anything that
Oh
made
my
you feel
gosh.
good as you did it?
I feel like I truly solved none part of this.
Really?
That's not
I'm
true.
surprised.
You solved the pay respect. The pay respect to your inner circle thing. My plan was to piss on a magic spell,
Yes.
and you were like, "No, pour one out."
Yeah,
That
no, that
worked.
was it was good, right?
That was
'Cause
like an
you hit
immediate
that
solution.
wall, and Aabria, you noted like you need some action or object that is going to count as like paying respects. We hadn't
Question
thought of
though, but if
pouring one
it
out.
turned out that in the culture of our kingdom that urine was a respectful liquid,
Yeah.
Look, you have to just if you
Interesting.
set that up, then we have to accept it.
I would have yes-anded the
You just
heck
meant
out
to-
of that, Paul.
You spent too much
Thank you.
time on buttholes, so we assumed the other stuff wasn't important.
Also,
A fact.
let's get into this because I would say if you look at a biological definition, your entire intestinal tract is actually outside of your body.
Oh, we get into weird
so
stuff here.
technically,
What?
that couldn't possibly be your
Yeah.
innermost circle. That's outside
It's
the body.
just the thing that a body is just a bunch of cells clumped around a tube, so the tube is
Yeah.
not your body.
Technically, you're a donut, and
Yep.
so actually, something else should be your innermost circle.
As someone who has dug around in cadavers, you're correct, and I don't like it.
That's what I'm saying.
Wait,
follow-up
what have
question.
What have you dug
Why?
around in cadavers for?
Yeah, I've also dug around in
I
cadavers.
haven't, and I'm really jealous.
Let's
I
talk,
was
let's get the cadaver
bio-pre-med
crew.
for a very short amount of time.
I'm a failed biochemist.
I
God,
did
yay!
biology, but just didn't get to do humans
And
so
I
much.
am a chemist. Well, I
He
was.
did forensics.
There we are.
Now we all do this.
Yeah.
Good for us.
I never got to play. We never got to mess with cadavers because I did like biochem/biotech.
I got to
what
deal
did
with
get to
roadkill
do-
a lot.
Okay. I got to accidentally cause, I think, 2 laboratory fires.
Oh no!
I set fire. I accidentally set fire to my friend's head. I inadvertently released a lot of locusts into the Liverpool ecosystem, and I was directly responsible for knocking a partially decomposed cow's head off of a next-story building.
Paul, you are a one-man biblical plague. Incredible.
Yeah,
Prince
starting to
of Egypt was
understand
about
the-
you.
The failed part of the failed biochemist.
yeah.
I will say, I find it endlessly charming that my very silly, pseudo-frustrated, why don't we just make a Molotov cocktail could have worked.
It was
did work. You
basically
needed it.
right. If that hadn't been said, would anyone have thought to use the whiskey to make fire to heat up the door? I don't think that would have happened.
And I love the way you described like the fumes catch. And I was like, great. I'm not going to do anything with that hint. I go off and kneel in the corner.
I watched so many videos, or tried to watch so many videos, just saying, what exactly happens if you just put fire to the top of a bottle of alcohol? And most people don't do that with bottles, it seems, but with glasses, yeah, it just turns into one of those flaming shots.
But it is true. I made a Molotov cocktail in the playtest. I used it to heat up the window and get the hot to the cold to smash the window. That's the correct solution.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That is correct. The using the whiskey as the form of respect was not now in our.
No, I went with flowers, but there was absolutely no reason to reject yours. It was very equally as valid.
It's an act
it's
of
clearly
respect. So we kind of join you there. I will say, Paul, the thing that I thought was very impressive from you straight away, very early on,
the fence
was the fence.
Oh my gosh,
people
absolutely.
saw the fence, and you just
Crushed
went,
it.
well, there's something else there as well. It was perfectly.
What I like
correct.
about that is
moment.
exactly my tone. It is the I've assumed the tone of a man awaiting praise, and then I contributed nothing else to that puzzle.
But that's good.
Actually, guys, you haven't solved this.
Well,
You should be extremely proud of that. And as far as escape rooms go, that is an extremely valuable skill.
that's
Every
a classic-
escape room has something like
You
that.
need some ability to recognize a pattern in one form.
I
and how that
assume,
matches
Aabria, that's
same
the sort of
pattern.
thing that you're saying you're good
100%.
at with the visual side of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so
So yeah, that's really
delightful.
good. So
Also, you
Paul-
were the one that solved. You busted out the flowers inside the headstones, right?
Yes,
That
you
was a
noticed
good
that as well.
teamwork.
You- Seeing
Incredible.
like the rows and the that was a very nice team effort because I think one of you sort of went like, oh, pots and pans.
Yeah, I think
pans
Travis
sounds
saw
a
the
bit like
pans, but then thought it was
pansy. Yeah.
approximate.
And then we couldn't quite. And then like the fact that Paul, you then keyed into no, they are literally written letter for letter. Was a great. It was a beautiful joint solution. I thought you did very well together.
So
So Paul, what impression has this given to you of escape rooms,
Yeah.
considering this was your first time?
Are you going to go do more?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. This is the first escape room I've been able to do because it's not. I've not done any before. I've tried to. So at the castle where I met Travis, I was going to do the escape room, but I had to work, so I couldn't do that. I was shooting a show. There's a really good British.
was it Ted
show
Lasso?
called- It wasn't. It wasn't. It was called Brassic. It's
Ted
on
Brasso?
that is a.
It's Ned Brasso.
That's just a very shiny football coach. Do you guys have Brasso? It's like an old. It's a Victorian metal polish
don't-
in the UK. Cool. That joke is for anyone over the age of 90 from the United Kingdom listening to this podcast.
But they
Target
loved it.
demographic, baby.
Yes. I'm going after the demos no other comedians are going for. But it's very ineffective. No, I was shooting a show called Brassic, which in the UK is put out by Sky, and I think they have some kind of deal with HBO. I'm only in one episode. All my dialogue got cut, but the show's really good. And me and some of the guys, it was on set for like a week up on location up in the north of England, and we went to this escape room thing on a one day off, and they had closed. It was the one day of the week they changed their opening hours, and so it was the one day of the week they were closed, and we were really gutted.
Yeah, that stings.
So yeah.
Well, now you can pursue the hobby with renewed vigor.
But I will. There's a bunch of, from what I understand from friends of mine who've been to some, there's a bunch of really good escape rooms in London. One of which is right by my therapist's, so I can go and do that when I'm really vulnerable.
Excellent. And if you're having trouble getting a group of locals together, there are still a big collection of online games out there that sprung up during COVID and are still around in places.
It's other fun ways to play.
Nice.
And you can just
Actually,
come back for another episode. Of
Oh
this.
yeah, you can always just keep
Happy to
doing
do
this.
so. You reminded me, a friend of mine, a comedian called Tom Bell, built an escape room in the back of a van to take around festivals.
Oh,
lovely.
that's a great place to have that. I love it.
Difficult to market though, because it does make you look like you're kidnapping people.
Oh
Also,
yeah.
Could you
Well-
escape the back of my
Like
van?
he literally locks
But that's
people in the
very
back of his
fun.
van.
Please.
Yeah.
Step inside
Or
the van.
the amount of like female friends I have that love true crime, like I think they would actually love that. Like, you're getting kidnapped. Escape the van.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Danny, you think that we want to go? Was there not much changed in the playtesting of this room? I
No,
don't
very
think.
little. The only thing that changed was that initially the words about pay respect to your innermost circle I had on top of the gate, just as wrought iron letters on top of the gate. That seemed like a place that you might put letters.
But no, because I was then like, the circles and the gate lock. They must be the same. And I'm looking around.
He related the innermost circle thing to the fence puzzle
And even
because
when
gate, fence, gate
even when
lock.
I saw the fence
yeah.
and I'd solved, I got that 4013. I was like, but how does that fit the circles? I won't put it in. I really have to find out about these circles first.
So he insisted that I move it somewhere
I'm
else.
with you.
So we moved it to the door, and then it
That's
became
fair.
a little.
And then
but
I
at
was
least-
going, they'll probably just read it and then forget about it until the end,
nope.
and that'll be
No,
fine. And
we were
oh,
sure
boy,
that
no.
every puzzle was hinging on that thing, and we're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, it's not for yet, but it's
You
gotta be
searched
now."
for so many circles.
But it's also
was the-
nice
that
because
was
and
the other
everything we
thing-
assumed was a circle, you're like, "That's
No, not a
not
circle.
a circle."
I
We're
guess
like, "The
everything's
pedestal? The
rectangles
window?"
now.
yeah. But the thing that's nice about this is there's a fun feeling with escape rooms. Either you want to like see something and go like, oh, how does this work out? And tie it to something straight away. Or it's a really nice thing to have something from the beginning, like, where do I fit this? Where do I fit this? So you spend the whole room like, I need a circle, I need a circle, I need a circle. And then eventually it's like, you see
Oh, that was
concentric
not my
circles.
approach.
And you go, concentric circles. All right, I have circles now.
Oh no, my approach was, do I have new information? I assume it's immediately relevant.
Yes, well,
Jam
that's
it
the other
into
thing.
everything.
So yeah, I was kind of expecting you to put that aside, and then once you got the rune, you would go, "Oh my god, these are circles!" But no, you were just, "Yep." And another thing, this is definitely circles. Let's try everything circle related for this again. Business as usual.
Business as
More
meal on
circles.
that. Look at this, all great. All right, I think we can probably leave that there. It was lovely to
Is
have.
there? And do you have any other comments
Any
or
other- yeah, or
anything
questions?
about your experience today?
Okay, so we're just confirming. The fourth drawing is a bunny.
Well, it was a demon.
Well.
I've got to say, Danny tried to draw a rabbit and she failed. It became
The
a demon.
idea was originally it was going to be a rabbit, and then it just turned into that, and then I went, you know what?
Looks all right.
That'll do.
The bunny demon is going to live rent-free in my head for so long. And I love the idea of those symbols just being like in a bigger, like more visually cued. Like if you were in a physical escape room, I'd be like, okay, looking for spider symbols everywhere. Flowers, there's flower beds. This is great. Moon. What time of day is it? Bunny demon. Are we demons? Like, it was just very fun that like the little red herring that I kept trying to like physically put away was like the symbols were for that puzzle and you have to stop thinking about
You
it.
have to let them go.
Yeah.
There are no more spiders.
I was genuinely waiting for a spider to come back
Yeah, right?
at some point later on. Like and again, it's just like decades of
I'm so
narrative
sorry.
conditioning.
If
But, like,
anyone
this
had
is
said that,
everything.
I at least. If anyone had
Everything is
mentioned that, I at
full-
least would have put like spiders coming out of the ears of some of the dead people,
Oh, fun.
could have had
That's
him
okay.
back.
and then demons coming out of some of the others.
Just one rabbit demon watching from the other side of the gate, always
Good,
one step
good.
ahead of
I've
us.
summoned the dead.
I will say this probably. I don't think this is a theme that I have seen in a physical escape room or in any other escape
Being
room.
a zombie?
Typically, the zombie rooms are coming from the other direction.
True.
Yeah, which was such a fun conceit just up top. Like, hey, you're a landed gentry. You're dead. But zombies are absolutely a thing.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah.
There was
Every
did
new
have-
bit of information, I'm like, stop.
I did
want
have
to
a
talk about this.
Well, I had a thought at one point, which Aabria, you gave voice to before I could. But in my thought process was like, oh, there's magic, and then you went, oh yeah, I mean we're dead, and I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
are
are
dead. Of course, there's magic.
we are animate dead people. Yeah, magic's
I do admit,
probably a given.
If there had not been zombies in the room prior, that magic rune puzzle would have been egregiously out of place.
Yes.
I just
you have to
love
set
the
it up.
idea that like in this world, coming back from the dead to defeat your enemy is not magic. That's normal.
That's just
Magic
life.
is a barrier. You can't walk through and you're like,
Yeah.
what is this? I didn't know there was magic was real.
Yeah.
He said while
Let's-
actively rotting. This is
Let's
normal.
use
What is
urine.
that?
Oh, lovely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was wonderful to have
Thank you for having us.
We'll let Paul sleep.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Before you go, Paul, you can start. Is there anywhere you'd like to send people to go and check out more stuff that you do?
You can find me on Twitter for as long as it lasts at Paul Foxcroft or at Questing Time, which is my show. And at the minute, what are we running at the minute? We've got a Sunday night show, which is Jess Jewell, my partner Jess Jewell, running a Spelljammer game. And that's running for the next 5 weeks, so 3 weeks-ish at the time this episode drops. It is aggressively chaotic, thanks to the players. and there is an enormous discussion about the commercial availability of bagged milk. Because it turns out our players are scattered around the globe, and there are places where having milk in bags is super normal and not worthy of comment, and places where it turns out makes at least one of our players incredibly uncomfortable to discuss. So if that sounds like it'd be fun, check that out.
I can tell from my own personal feelings right now, we are going to have many listeners go and check it out for that particular reason.
Yeah,
because you've got to see the
good
bag.
times.
Where do you land on the
and that's at twitch.tv/questing time. You can watch the VODs. They are riddled with technical faults because our tech is me for this run.
Wonderful. Well, look, there are links to all that in the show notes as well. And Aabria, is there anywhere you'd like to send people?
Yeah, you can actually catch the first episodes of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One over on Worlds Beyond Number if you join our Patreon. So stuff should be live as of when this is released, and then live to the public sort of writ large in March 1st. Other than that, you can catch me running games over at Critical Role, Dimension 20, all over the place. And I've got some big fun projects lined up that I can't talk about yet. So just stay tuned on my Twitter at Quiddy. It should just be my first name, but it's not. I don't know why. I'm too lazy to change it now.
All right. Thank you so much. And for people listening at home, if you want to help support the show, go and tell a person about the show, leave a review, tell a friend, tell an enemy, jump on Reddit, jump on Twitter, jump on Mastodon and spread the word. There's also a new mystery over at Solve This Murder. So it's back now for this. I believe you should have the first two parts of a 9-part mystery where we do our own version of Murder on the Links, an Agatha Christie novel. We just did a public domain one this time. It was a lot easier. You can also help support the show if you sign up for our Patreon. Anyone at any level can appear as a NPC in one of Danny's rooms.
And so, once again, thank you to the 4 people who we put into this one.
Yes, Tom, Olivia, Jay, and Cheryl. You are
Town
now the founders.
Rulers
Shout out to the founders.
Guilds.
And there are bonus episodes. You can hear all the playtest audio or our series of solving 2-minute mysteries and other weird fun stuff. There are badges for our $10 donors. Go and check it all out. It's a great way to help support us and the things that we do. All right, thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for being with us today. You were great players.